Thank you so much. First of all, I'm really happy and thankful to the organizers that they really gave us the chance, the young people as well, to speak and share their own values. So, Youth Advocacy Network is a national level youth organization. We are working with the young people, particularly in policy advocacy. So, because we have been part of the official delegation of Pakistan to the UN, as well as we have been working with the government, so usually what we listen from the government that, see, people don't want the life skills based education or the sex education. Because in terms of Pakistan, we don't use word sex a lot. That's why we name it like life skills based education, but it covers mostly the sex education or the comprehensive sexuality education. So this is how that was the reason that made us to go for this small research. Yeah, so just a little bit of the introduction. Like Pakistan just got independence in 1947. So so far, according to the 1998 census, it has like 180 million population. 52% is the women, 48% are the men, 41% urban, 59% rural. Literacy rate is 47%, which is like again not very according to the definition of the education or the literacy. And then according to the World Bank, there is an estimate like 64% of the population is under the age of 30. So which means it has the youth dividend, like a lot of population, the huge population is young. So Pakistan and the LSD of the sex education, so usually it is like it's a conservative society because the majority of the population is Muslim, or maybe it is another reason that we found actually at the end of this research. Government does not support sex education in any way. Even I remember when I was studying, so there was in biology there was a chapter of the HIV and AIDS. So of course there are some like teacher have to explain. So they just said like you don't need to read that. It's fine. So they just skip that chapter. And then there is people think like it's a private matter. You don't need to discuss in the public or even with each other. Though peer and the young people do discuss a lot. And then organizations of course are working in Pakistan. We are NGOs and the CSOs. But again their area is very specific and very limited. As we saw, like 180 million population is a huge number, so it's very difficult for the organizations to work on that. So there's no particular research has done so far, as since 1998 there is no census yet have been done. So it is also one of the reasons that none of the organizations could actually come up with the huge research or the full research for the education or overall on the CSC particularly. There are some publications available by some of the reputed organizations, including Rutgers, AHAM. We have like these kind of very focused organizations, but unfortunately they are just for specific organizations, or they are not very open for everyone within the sector as well. And then of course sex education is not part of the curriculum, as I mentioned already. So objective was like we really wanted to see like what are the perspective of the people and what government thinks, and also like what are the practices and behaviors, because recently I just want to mention like we had a huge scandal that came out into the media about the child sexual abuse, and there was like huge discussion within Pakistan like either there should be education for the children and the young people which actually prevent them or make them enough empowered to stop or to get saved from the child sexual abuse. So it was quantitative research and we structured it like questionnaires was designed like 20 items, and then we just went through a beta process so that we can get an idea like is it really going to work or not. And then we come up with the 500 citizens. Again it was like randomly selected people, and 240 were from the urban and 250 from the rural area, and there was overall 93% of the response of the overall research. So these were the questions, and we can see here I think this is again our personal view that it increases particularly because after this huge media scandal that came out, like young people and the adolescents or the children should have enough information and knowledge so that they can talk and they can have enough confidence to talk to their parents or the teachers. So that's why we see like it's like 55% was like people saying like it should be between 10 to 15, so that and then we see like there is very few number before the age of 7 and 8 to 9, and then after 15 is the 90%. And who do you think should give you the education? And again, as I mentioned, so mostly it should be the same gender teachers. Usually we do have separate classes within the schools, and even we have separate colleges and universities as well for the men and for the women. So it is also like overall result that there was 65% of the people, of the respondent who gave us like there should be separate education for the LSDE, for the sex education. So what is the government perspective? We could not go to the government like in a huge manner, but we have three major ministries who actually deal with in one or other way. We don't have specific ministry who deal with the sexuality education. So we had interviewed, and what they were actually talking about was like, it's not, you know, it's not our issue. And secondly, people don't want it. People don't need to have this, because if people don't want that, we cannot go for it. We can't go for any of the perspective that people have. We can't go or have any policy according to the people's perspective or against the people's perspective. So that's why we don't need any research as well, because people don't want it. We know that. So it's this general perception by the ministry as well as the ministers even. So interestingly, Pakistan society is very unpredictable. I will share with you the two different case studies. And then government is also having an opinion that, I mean, education, sex education, maybe people will not accept, or it is not acceptable at all within the families as well. And then we have these two studies. Study number one, case study number one. This is Johi, which is a very rural area, village area, approximately 200 kilometers away from the Karachi district. So where the parents actually demanded from the school that there should be education around sexuality education to the children. So it was literally a kind of shock for the, and it was huge, like there's a link as well, and it's in media as well. It was in the media. Like people and the parents were demanding from the school that there should be an education for the children who are going to school there in that village. It's literally a village. And then this is a case study number two, where I belong, Lahore, which is a kind of metropolitan city, and very English school named Lahore Grammar School, and where they actually, the school started education on sexuality education, but unfortunately parents actually came out and they asked them to stop that. And again, it was again into the media, and there was huge discussion within that city as well. So what we have evaluated, like after 18th Amendment, we had an 18th Amendment in the Constitution in 2010, where like all of the major ministries have been devolved to the states or to the provinces. So major of the ministries which actually directly linked with the young people of the CSE, like population, health, education and youth, it have been devolved to the states. Now there is no national level policy, no national level ministry or anything, but now all the provinces have the responsibility to come up with the policies. So far provinces have to develop, they are not done yet, so the development have been done in 2010. So like still it have been 6 years have been passed, but still there is no progress particularly in terms of all these policies. But particularly in terms of the youth policies, because as I mentioned earlier, like there is a huge youth dividend, so most of the elections and the politics come up through the youth agenda. So far 2 states have been developed. One has recently adopted the youth policy. Number one is Punjab, and second is the KP, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is right next to Afghanistan. So that province. So they have come up with the policies, and luckily there is part of the life skills based education, which like actually that policy is covering the life skills based education. But unfortunately, let's see how they are going to implement those policies. But still, 3 of the provinces and the regions have to work on that youth policy as well. So what is the conclusion? We think we really have been discussing with the government, like there should be census at least, so that we know exactly like what is the what exactly is the situation at the ground, like what is the population of this country, because we really don't know after 1998. And then there are already policies and programs which are quite good, like as I mentioned, like youth policy, and there is a national AIDS control program which actually covers even not all the LGBT, but at least transgenders and the other MSM. That policy covers those areas. So we really need, we think like government need to implement those policies as is written in their policies. And then lack of strategies to reach out school, like people who are out of school, particularly young people and adolescents. As I mentioned, like again in the first slide we saw like there are only 47% who are literate. So literacy doesn't mean that youth or the children is going to the school. Literacy in Pakistan means like if you can write your name, so it means you are literate. So we also need to think about the young people who are not into the school, how they will be able to get the CSE and sexuality education. And then policies, particularly population education, health policies, needs to be revised as they are already in the process. So these are some of the conclusions.